I never saw it coming. If you told me I'd fall in love with someone like Vincent Marchese, cold, calculating, and old enough to be my mentor, I would have laughed in your face. But love doesn't ask for permission. It sneaks in, slips under your skin, and before you know it, it consumes you. It started with a mistake, at least that's what I told myself. Vincent wasn't the kind of man people fell for. He was the kind they feared. With a jawline sharp enough to cut glass and eyes colder than a January morning, Vincent built an empire by tearing down anyone who stood in his way. He didn't believe in kindness. He believed in control. And yet, somehow, I found myself standing in the middle of his world, tangled in a web of emotions I didn't know how to escape. It wasn't love at first sight. No, love would have been too soft a word for what I felt when I first saw him. It was fascination, a dangerous curiosity. He sat at the head of the boardroom table, commanding the room without raising his voice. Everyone feared disappointing him, but they also craved his approval, including me. I was just an intern, a nobody really, the kind of person Vincent would walk past without a second glance. But the first time our eyes met, something shifted. It was subtle, just a flicker of interest buried beneath layers of indifference, but it was there. And once I noticed it, I couldn't unsee it. He wasn't an easy man to love, and that's what made it impossible not to. Our first conversation happened late one night, long after everyone else had left the office. I was gathering my things when I felt him standing behind me, his presence heavy, like a storm rolling in. "Working late, aren't you?" His voice was low, smooth, but there was a sharp edge to it, like he was testing me. I swallowed hard, trying to ignore the way my heart raced in my chest. "Just finishing up some reports." He gave a small, humorless smile, as if amused by my nervousness. "Good. I like people who don't waste time." That was Vincent, a compliment wrapped in a threat, but instead of scaring me off, it pulled me in deeper. There was something intoxicating about him. He was like fire, beautiful to look at, but dangerous if you got too close. And God help me, I wanted to get close. The first time he kissed me, it wasn't sweet or soft. It was desperate, rough, a clash of teeth and tongues that left me breathless. He pinned me against the wall of his office, his hands firm, possessive, like he wanted to mark me as his. "You don't know what you're getting into," he whispered against my lips, his breath hot against my skin. He was right. I didn't. But I didn't care. Being with Vincent was like standing on the edge of a cliff, the wind howling in my ears, daring me to jump. And I jumped, head first into a world where love felt like war and every touch was a battlefield. He wasn't gentle. Vincent didn't believe in softness or tenderness. He believed in power, control, and precision. But there were moments, rare, fleeting moments, when the walls he built around himself cracked, and I saw glimpses of the man beneath the armor. Like the night he found me crying in the office, overwhelmed by the pressure of a project I thought I couldn't finish. He didn't say a word. He just sat beside me, his hand resting on my knee, grounding me without smothering me. "You'll figure it out," he said quietly, and in that moment I believed him. But love with Vincent wasn't without its cost. He wasn't just older, he was from a different world, a world where emotions were liabilities and love was a weakness to be exploited. Being with him meant living in the shadows, hiding our relationship from the prying eyes of the corporate world. "Nobody can know about this," he warned me one night, his voice colder than usual. "If they find out, it'll ruin us both." And so, we became a secret, a dangerous game of stolen kisses and late-night rendezvous, where every moment felt like it could be our last. It was thrilling, addictive, but secrets have a way of unraveling, and ours was no different. One morning I overheard a conversation between Vincent and one of his board members. They were talking about restructuring, cutting costs, letting people go. And my name was on the list. My heart sank. It felt like a betrayal, even though I knew it wasn't personal. To Vincent, everything was business. I was just another expendable asset. When I confronted him about it, His expression didn't change. "It's not personal," he said, as if that made it better. "Not personal," I repeated, my voice shaking with anger. "You're going to fire me, Vincent." He didn't flinch. "I warned you not to get too close." And just like that, the man I thought I knew disappeared, replaced by the ruthless CEO everyone else saw. I walked out of his office that day, vowing never to look back. But walking away from Vincent was like trying to quit an addiction. Even as I told myself it was over, I found myself waiting for his call, his text, anything to prove that I wasn't just another name on a list. The call came 2 weeks later. "I made a mistake," Vincent said, his voice low, filled with something I never thought I'd hear from him: regret. But by then, it was too late. The damage was done. "I loved you," I whispered, the words heavy with all the things I never got to say. "But love wasn't enough for you, was it?" There was silence on the other end of the line, and I knew Vincent wasn't the kind of man who begged. He was the kind who watched things fall apart and walked away without looking back. "I never wanted to hurt you," he said finally, and for the first time I heard the cracks in his armor. "I know," I whispered, "but you did." We ended things that night quietly, without fanfare. No grand goodbyes, no promises to stay friends. Just two people who tried to love each other and failed. Vincent was a lesson, a beautiful, painful lesson. He taught me that love isn't always enough, that sometimes the people we fall for are the ones who can't love us the way we need. But I don't regret it, not a single moment. Because loving Vincent, even for a little while, felt like standing in the eye of a storm. Dangerous, exhilarating, and unforgettable. And some storms are worth chasing, even if they leave you broken in the end.